It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, folks, she was elected top cop in 2012, and she said that she was going to do a lot of things when she became district attorney. Very young girl when she was elected. A lot of people in Luzerne County said, well, does she really have the experience to be our district attorney? Well, today my guest is our district attorney, Stefanie Salavantis, and she was elected 2012. Stephanie, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
2 years goes by fast, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. It does.
You were campaigning, now you're in office. Well, certainly you haven't been no stranger to Luzerne, getting around Luzerne County. I want to ask you a few questions, all right? People today look at politicians as different ways, all right? Some people are disgusted. Some people say, they're in it for this, they're in it for that, etc. First of all, why did you decide, okay, you're 29 years old when you decided, I would think, you wanted to run for district. Why did you decide that you wanted to run for Luzerne County District Attorney?
I wanted to make a difference. This was my hometown. This was an area I grew up, and I felt that we needed more youth stepping forward and becoming a mentor to others and showing that we can do the job that people think. I was questioned so much going around and campaigning. You're so young. How do you think you can do this? And I wanted to show them that we have the ability to do it just like any other person that may be older in a position such as this. This was a community that I grew up in and I wanted to see thrive, and that's what I hope people are seeing as I go around and I speak to them, and I hope that they are very proud of the job I'm doing here in Luzerne County.
Okay, so at that time, you had to have some experience, okay, even though you were 29 years old. And what experience did you have at that time to take the job on? Well,
I grew up in business. Both of my parents owned successful businesses, in my opinion, and I was raised around that environment. I knew what needed to be done in order to make a business thrive, and I then proceeded on to become a lawyer. I always wanted to be a lawyer, and from there, I worked I opened my own private practice as well as working for one of the largest insurance companies. And when I decided to run, I felt I had the experience. The district attorney's office, in my opinion, should be looked at as one of the biggest law firms in Luzerne County, if not the biggest law firm in Luzerne County. And it should be run that way. And with my business background, my legal background, I felt I had that experience.
Interesting because, I started in business with Johnny Morato when I was 18 years old, okay? In fact, we started in high school.
Oh, wow.
And being two young people in the piano and organ business, what people didn't realize that Johnny and I would go to conventions. And here we would see a lot of things. We would see every piano made, every organ made, and learned from the pros. So we were able to take that information back, even though we were young, to our community and open up piano organ stores in the state of Pennsylvania. And so it doesn't mean age sometimes to a degree, possibly, but experience. But now you campaigned and you said you wanted to be the voice for the people. You wanted the DA's office to be open to everyone. You wanted to be get Hazleton back on the map, right. Southern Luzerne County, and you wanted to focus with youth and elderly. Okay, correct. Now these are some of the things that you said in working with children. Some of the things that you campaigned on. So where have you been so far in those promises?
Well, I feel like I have touched upon every single one of them. We'll start with Hazleton. I felt that going around and campaigning, I heard a lot of people say we lost our voice. People aren't listening to what Hazleton needs, and we're the ones struggling here. We need you to be a voice for Hazleton. And the first thing I did was I reached out to the mayor. I developed a very strong relationship with the Hazleton chief. I made sure that I was there for the people. I was there for the law enforcement side of it. And I opened an office specifically for the district attorney's office in City Hall to show that we have a presence there. Speaking of children and elderly, they were two big areas that I wanted to focus heavily on. I felt that they cannot fight for themselves. Someone needs to fight for them. So I have become very involved with the Abuse Task Force and Area Agency on Aging to open the doors and make people aware of what's going on in our community when dealing with elder abuse. And as most people, I hope almost everyone knows in Luzerne County, child abuse and bullying, suicide prevention, that's a big area that I wanted to focus on with bringing the anti-bullying message and suicide prevention and having experts come in and key speakers come into and speak to our children throughout all of Luzerne County. Those are just some of the areas that I have touched upon while working in the district attorney's office, being the district attorney for Luzerne County.
So when you campaigned, you said these are some of the issues that you wanted to work on. Am I
Yes.
correct? Okay. And it reminds me, and I tell you the story prior to the taping, it reminds me when I interviewed Tom Corbett, and I know people, here he goes with the thing with Tom Corbett. I respect Tom Corbett a lot, I really do. And I'll tell you why. The man is not a liar, okay? He is not a politician. Good politicians make for good government.
Right.
But when he ran for Attorney General, he said, this is what I want to do as Attorney General. He stated his case. After 4 years, Stefanie, when I interviewed him, he accomplished those 4 things.
Right.
He ran again. He said this is what he wanted to do. He accomplished that. Before he ran for governor, I interviewed him. He said, this is what I want to do for the state of Pennsylvania. Now, as of today, 90% of what he said he was going to do, campaigned on. People listened to his campaign and voted for him. Now he did 90% of what he said he was going to do. All right? And some people are upset with him, the fact that he's done what he said he was going to do. That's the thing that I have a concern about, because if you said, I'm going to do something for Hazelton and we haven't seen you in 2 years,
Right.
I'm going to say, you're full of malarkey,
I
okay?
agree.
All right? So and that's what so when a politician does his job, why then should he not have favorable ratings? Could you answer that question for me?
I really don't know. I think certain people, there are always the issue of Republican, Democrat, and
Yeah.
people voting for their party because that's their party. But I'm trying to make it as if, I'm trying to be a voice to the people saying, it doesn't matter what party we are. It's in the district attorney's office, we're fighting for a common goal. We're fighting the criminals that are on our streets, and we're fighting to keep our public safe. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm out there every night talking to crime watch groups, opening my doors, having people come in every day and talk to me about their concerns, listening to them, and trying to do as much as I possibly can for my position, because I don't know how long I'll be in this position to have the ability to do this and fight for them. So I think there are issues to whether or not someone would be reelected, but my focus is focusing on every day and doing 110% for the public. And if they want to vote me in again, I would be happy for their support.
Well, and that's a thing that I think, my parents were Democrats. My grandmother and grandfather were Democrats because in the 50s and the 40s, the Democrats were for the poor people working. Today, I don't believe that at all, okay? I don't believe that one bit. I just think that the philosophy of the Democrat Party, okay, has just deteriorated. However, there are a lot of great Democrats out there.
I agree.
There are a lot of conservative Democrats in middle of the road who are just, and they vote the person, okay?
Right.
But the platform sucks, okay? For my info, and if people really understood what the platform was, they'd say, why am I in a party that's supporting this kind of thing, okay?
Right.
However, there are still great people. My mother switched from a Democrat to Republican when she was 87 years old. Oh. And there's a staunch
that a lot.
Yeah, and only because they were, and that doesn't mean that because you're Republican, I'm going to vote for you,
Right.
okay? If you were a Democrat and you were good, I would vote for you. So I think that's where the people have a problem. I said on my show once, that don't vote for someone because their last name is a Ski or a Mulligan so some people misinterpret it saying Sammy's saying don't vote for someone who has a Ski. I'm not saying that. I'm said don't vote just because they're Polish or Italian. Right. I remember my grandfather. You got to vote for him. He's an Italian. Well, Grandpa, what does he know? Okay, folks. I'm talking to Stefanie Salavantis. She was elected 2012. She promised a lot of things. So far, she's doing what she promised. When we come back, there's a lot more happening in the DA's office that I think is really be exciting for 2014. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Welcome to all my friends in the Kingston, Wilkes-Barre Mountaintop. We appreciate the nice emails you're sending. You know we're up there on Channel 19, Monday, 9 o'clock, 11 p.m. We appreciate you the great emails. My email is sam@ssptv.com. And remember, every one of our shows are on ssptv.com. Every one that we produce, the 21 shows that we produce. And also my friends in Harrisburg, I appreciate you those emails as well. My guest today is Luzerne County's top cop, Stefanie Salavantis. She was elected 2012. And Stefanie, as we said, you said that you were going to work with youth and elderly, okay? Now, you've opened the doors, you know, especially in Hazleton. You're doing some great things. I think there's two areas, the youth and elderly, okay?
Yes.
The elderly today, I feel sorry for our senior citizens because not only are they living in tough times, they should be enjoying their golden years. Now they're trying to survive to pay their prescriptions and their oil bills, etc.
Yes.
And everything they were promised didn't happen.
Right.
The kids are very important to us because now you go into grade schools and that's where people are able to get the drugs, etc., etc.
And they're our future.
Yeah. So two things. Let's talk about the elderly first.
Okay, with the elderly, as I stated before, I am part of the Elder Abuse Task Force, and I felt that was very important to become involved in. We are seeing a lot of abuse going on in our county, physical, emotional, caregiver abuse, financial abuse, and my goal was to try to get that message out there. Let people know what's going on in our community. If they detect that their neighbor who's 80 years old is being financially abused by a nephew or even someone that just comes in and takes care of them, to come forward, and that there are people out there that are there to fight for the protection of the elderly. Like I said before, I feel that it's difficult for them to fight for themselves, so we need to do it for them.
Okay, so let me ask you a question now, because again, I think there are a lot of people in our viewing the show that may suspect that there is some elderly abuse happening to maybe a neighbor or etc.
Right.
However, involvement sometimes is a very difficult thing because now, well, if I call the neighbors, they're going to hate me, or I'm going to get, I don't want to get involved. I know it's a bad thing. What protection do you have, okay, when I make a report that I'm not going to get involved, that, et cetera. They're going to come after me because this is what you did to my mother and my aunt or whatever, father, etc.
Well,
you know what I'm
first,
saying?
I understand completely. First and foremost, say you're a neighbor. I would rather that neighbor not talk to me and save that neighbor's life, if that is actually occurring, save their life or the livelihood that they built up, the amount of money that they built up. I've seen individuals lose their life savings because someone came in and just wiped out their accounts, and that elderly person had no idea what was going on.
What if it was a son or a daughter that you knew was abusing their parents, or a brother or a sister, and you knew they were abusing their parents?
Come forward. Call my office. Speak to me. I have a detective that is specifically assigned to elder abuse. Even if you want to talk to someone and say, this is what I'm seeing, I don't know if it's actually abuse or financial abuse, physical abuse. I don't know. I just want to talk to someone. My detective is there. Area Agency on Aging is outstanding. The work that they do every single day. They sit down and they talk to people. They go over everything that may be occurring and give advice on what to do, what not to do. I don't think anybody should hesitate when they think that there is a possibility that abuse is going on, any type of abuse. I insist that people come forward, and it could be anonymous. They could come forward and say, I don't really want to get involved, I just want to make you aware of this. We could go in and check up on that elderly person. So it's just very important that they do report what they see.
And here again, I know that there are people that may suspect, and not someone who's envious or jealous. I'm talking
Right.
about legitimate things where they feel that there's something going on. I think there's something happening, and so therefore, then your team begins in a professional manner.
Correct.
You're not busting doors down
No.
and going in it with guns.
No.
Okay. So staying on with the elderly. Okay. Now, when you say we want to get the word out, this is one way we can get the word out.
Right.
Going on a number of talk shows or in the news, or et cetera, which is important. And I think that's one of the things, because in the wintertime, first of all, a lot of elderly, they don't go out.
I agree.
They stay home, and very difficult to get them out, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to know what's going on. So we can get the word out via shows such as this, or our local News 13 or whatever. Is that a way you're going to go out, maybe to newspaper print with, standard speaker, Citizen's Voice, etc.?
Quite frequently send out press releases, send out things that the elderly should be aware of, specifically scams that go on. With Area Agency on Aging, we put on with some representatives a Justice Day to come forward. There were, I would say, about 150 to 200 older adults that showed up for this Justice Day, and I was able to speak to them personally. Just that one day, me being present in this room, I had 25 at least people come forward and say, this is what I think is going on, can you help?
Wow.
So it shows you that there's a lot going on that people just don't know who to turn to.
Yes.
We also go into the, I believe, and now it's called the active older adult centers. We are going in there and we are making the seniors aware of what's going on and who to contact if they need any information or someone to speak to.
So, and that's done, via, press releases or getting on.
Correct.
And that's amazing that 25 people would come up after you.
Yes.
There are some areas, I think sometimes we like to try to keep the communication going. I know from, when I have guests on my show, people will come up and say, Sammy, why don't you ask her this, or why don't you ask him this, or, I like your show, but I'd like to ask them. And I really don't have all the questions. I hope that I have some of them that people are concerned. Like, for example, when you think the district attorney's office, well, that's up here, and boy, I don't know if we could talk to the district attorney's office because you're up here, and that's not.
I don't want people thinking that.
Yeah.
I want people to think that they could walk in my office, and even if I'm available, I'm there to talk to them.
Now, the receptionist or your secretary is not going to throw them out, right?
No,
Okay.
They always contact me.
Okay.
I'm very busy, of course, and if
Yeah.
I'm in meetings, but
Yeah.
they could schedule meetings with
Yeah.
me. I am trying to be so accessible to everybody.
So what you're saying, again, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that your office is open for the public. You're not up here sitting as
No.
Miss District Attorney, et cetera, et cetera. You're available to, because again, if I like to call, I want to talk to our District Attorney, Stefanie Salavantis, and you will take the call and et cetera. Now, I understand there's some people that, are not fully there. And you eliminate those people, but a majority, 99% of the people are concerned and
Yes.
interested. Okay,
Yes.
And I think that's a stigma, Stefanie, that we have with the politicians. I truthfully believe that the people that we have now, I know some people may disagree, but I truthfully believe that the people that we have now, the ones that have been on my show, okay, are honest. Because for you to sit here on the show and speak to thousands of people, you better be telling them the truth.
I agree.
And I better be telling them what I feel, and I can't take my viewers for granted, okay?
I know.
And you just can't you have to tell them facts, because I'll tell you something, the smartest people in the world are? Seniors and children.
I agree.
The two smartest people. If we would solve all our problems in our country, if we were to get all the seniors together and just give them the they'll resolve the problems for you, because your parents did it and your grandparents did it when they had a business.
Right.
And they had all these personal concerns, they did it. Folks, I'm talking to Stefanie Salavantis. More coming. What about the addicts? What about our Luzerne County, high in crime, Pennsylvania, gangs, high in gangs? What are we doing about it? Stay with us. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, SSPTV.com, Sam at SSPTV.com. I'm laughing, folks, because I'm talking to Stefanie Salavantis, and some of you sometimes will stop me and say, Sammy, what's the story with you and Corbett? I got to tell you, the governor today, I've interviewed him so many times, and it's not that I'm campaigning for him, Stefanie. It's just that when a person tells you the truth and they do what they say they're going to do, why criticize him just because you want the party back? And if he was a Democrat, I'd be the same thing, okay? Now, you said something that you've already been working with the addicts, okay, and crime. Crime is high in Luzerne County. We have a drug problem, okay? So, and what you were telling me, and I want you to share this with our viewers, I think this is a step in hopefully reducing the consumption.
What we were talking about earlier was that every family, any person knows someone that has been affected by an addiction. I personally, and I go out and I tell everybody, my family was affected. We lost my sister to addiction, alcohol addiction. And I go around and I talk to many different organizations, different groups of people, and I tell them this story because addiction doesn't just affect the family, it affects the community as well, the children, it affects everyone. And so I have been pushing for better programs that we need to really go after the addicts and try to help them. We need better programs out there because if we can help the addicts of our community, we can then cut the supply that's coming into our communities, such as the gangs bringing the drugs and the drug violence that goes with it, because we're cutting the demand. And I think that's essential for people to understand. So the better the programs, the better help we can provide to these individuals suffering from addiction, the better our community will do overall.
Okay, now when you're talking about this, it's just like a general or in war. He has to plan how they're going to make the attack on their, the enemy. And they have to make sure everyone's in place, okay, all their things. So you're going to have to put in place law enforcement, you have to put in place educational things, you have to do all these things to begin to address this, okay?
Right.
Because saying a lot of things, that sounds great, but how do we make it work? How are you going to make it work?
Well, I have been very vocal. I've been working with different agencies that are working throughout all of Pennsylvania on programs for alcoholics, for drug addicts, and trying to emphasize how we have to increase the amount of individuals we're taking in. Right now, it's very limited. We need to help more. And from that angle, as we help in that department and these different programs that are out there helping the addicts, we also have to educate the community on what goes on, why we have such an increase in robberies because of the addiction issues. Say, for instance, we have a lot of families that their homes are being robbed because they're being robbed because these addicts need money. They need money to feed their addiction. And we need to really educate the community on what is going on and why this is so essential to fighting crime in our communities and on our streets.
And we've talked about this a number of times when we have senators, representatives, et cetera. We talk about the children getting into the grade schools.
Yes.
They're grade schools. I mean,
Yes.
It's crazy. 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, okay? Letting these kids know specifically and what kind of programs you have for that. I know you've been doing that, but how are we going to step it up?
I have assistant district attorneys going into schools talking to kids about the consequences to their actions and what that will mean to their future, getting involved in, say, drugs, gangs, anything along those lines. We talk to the kids, but I think it's essential to talk to parents and tell parents, this is what you need to be aware of. Most people don't know heroin is one of the, if not the biggest drug in our community. I wouldn't believe it if I wasn't sitting in this position I am in. So people have to come out of the clouds. That's what I keep saying. Bring yourself down to reality and realize that there are major drugs circulating throughout our community and in our schools.
I have a minute left. Do you show the children examples, okay, of what happens? For example, kids are easily misled, especially in the
Yes.
playground. And before they had films showing, show the kids, okay, here's a stranger would come up and they, oh, how are you? And they may have something, and these poor kids are innocent, okay? And they suck them in, okay? If they see this and someone's showing them, do not, if it's no matter who it is, okay? We always had passwords. If someone had to pick my kids up, they had a password to tell, what's the password? Rumpelstiltskin. Okay, we know your mom.
That's a good idea.
No, seriously. Because you're picking kids up and say, okay, well, even though it's your uncle, even if it's your friend, what's the password? Okay, fine. If they didn't know the password, something was wrong. Their mom and dad didn't send them.
Because Sam, one of the issues I have these days, when growing up we were told stranger danger. It's not stranger danger anymore. It's family members you have to be aware of as well. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Showing some things are so important. Stephanie, we could go on for another. I really appreciate you coming to the show, okay? I know you're busy and you've never turned us down. Even with our local News 13, we appreciate that very much. It's only getting information out, okay? Stefanie Salavantis, folks, our district attorney in Luzerne County. Remember, she's telling you her office is open to you if you have any concerns, if there's any elder abuse that you see what's going on, anything that you see what's happening. The district attorney's office is available to you, according to what she says, and I have to believe her. So far, 2 years she's been in, everything she says she's doing, she is doing, okay? Such as our governor, folks. He said he was going to do things. 90% of what he said he was doing, he's doing. If you have any questions, you know you can always get me at sam@ssptv.com, and I will have Stefanie back next year talking about a number of things. Stay with us. We'll see you next time.